the original member. A lot of people think Jesse wrote the songs and he didn't. And Zayo is just as much a part of me, Dan, and Russ than it ever was of Jesse, too. Because I honestly think the Zayo that everybody loves now is the one that Dan and Russ started, too. You know what I mean? Blood and Fire, like you said, is the record that most people can look back to and say, this is the Zayo that I fell in love with. And that was Dan and Russ just as much as it was anybody else. But he did have a possessiveness, but it was, I think, what hurt was the fact that all of us did too. And we wanted our part of it. And we had to fight for our part of it, you know what I mean? But I would say, not really personally his fault, but yeah, most of the drama came from him.
Is that why you two left originally?
Well,
part of the reason.
yeah, and I think, I don't know, I just think that, and I'll just answer a question someone's probably going to ask anyway, but I think that gets into, a lot of people ask us why we haven't changed our name with, you know, with everything that just happened, and our answer to that is, if we ever should have changed our name, it should have been Blood and Fire came out, because that was a different band than the band that put out Splinter Shards, technically, and All Else Failed, and from that point on, it was different, and we do, you know, we understand why people would ask that, but I guess for us, like for myself and Russ, it was kind of like, and Brett, when Blood and Fire came out, that was a whole new band using an old band's name, and the reason we never changed the name is because we felt that, you know, those were separate, different Zayos, and this was, so we're technically, even though we're not original members from the beginning, the Blood and Fire family up into like the Liberate, we were, you know, originally in that, and we feel that was a different band, but, you know, and I guess technically, if the band kept doing different things, we would have changed it, but we feel that we're keeping the name now because, you know, there's, from the Blood and Fire era up there, and, you know, Liberate, there's still 3 original members in the band that was from that essence of it, you know. If the name would have changed during Blood and Fire, we'd keep that name, you know, and that, the name that was on Blood and Fire is Zayo, so we always felt, you know, that was kind of a new beginning, you know, from that point on. If that makes any sense.
I just wanted to ask what kind of music you guys been listening to lately. Like, I noticed you last night were a lot more active than I've ever seen you at a Zayo show before. So I just didn't know if you guys were listening to more of the harder stuff or lighter stuff, or just where do you guys get your influences as far as music?
We can go down the line for this so everybody else can answer. Our new guys here need to speak up. But for me, actually, the reason why I had so much fun last night is because of these fucking guys. It's nothing that I've listened to that changed my mind. I've listened to the same thing since I've started the band, but to have the passion and fire that I've had when I first started this band back is the reason why. Because the last 3 years, there hasn't been anything but kind of like drama and tension, and so when you're on stage, it just doesn't feel good. With these 5 guys, I'm in love with being in this band again. Musically, what I've been listening to is, I don't know, I listen to Johnny Cash all the time. So does Dan. But like nothing really hard. Just like old, like I'm a big fan of 70s rock and just rock and roll in general. I don't really actually listen to heavy music, and we kind of say that all the time, and a lot of bands do, because it's kind of like the cliche thing. I'm a metal band, but I don't listen to metal. And I like it, and I love playing it, but I just don't listen to it too much. How about you?
I listen to a lot of like Bjork, kind of like Muse, Scandinavian metal, stuff like that. It varies.
It varies.
The Cranberries, Bjork, Cigarettes, nothing heavy.
Danzig.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of Danzig, Johnny Cash. I like, I was raised, I definitely like heavy stuff, but I was never really much into like the actual like hardcore. I was always more like when I heard Venom when I was like 11 years old, so I've always liked a lot of like the original older metal, like Venom, Motorhead, stuff like that. I was raised on all that, like the faster punk stuff, like there was a lot of good bands from Pittsburgh. I used to go to shows when I was like 12 and 13, so So I've always kind of like, I always like the real fast, crusty punk stuff, and then like, I was never a big fan of like the in between. I like just like straight death metal, like Suffocation, stuff like that. And but mainly I like Johnny Cash, and Nick Cave. Sorry, I don't talk in public, so I'm an idiot. But just saying.
You're doing fine, lovely.
Yeah.
You're doing lovely.
But and Neil Young. I like music that's emotional, not in the emo sense. Not necessarily emo, but
Yes.
But I like stuff that's either makes you feel happy, makes you feel sad or angry. I like music that conveys some sort of emotion. And I guess that's what we always try to do with this, is make people feel sad, angry, happy. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's that you make people feel like that. I think you tap into what they're already feeling. And it's just through that you realize that a lot of people feel the same thing, and it makes you not feel like an alien.
Yeah, see, I'm the weirdo of the group here. My favorite band is They Might Be Giants, and see Scott over there. He hates it. So it's always fun how I try to get my music played in the van as we're traveling, but I end up buying an iPod so I can listen to it. I like stuff like that. And as far as drummers, my favorites like Max Weinberg and I like Dave Weckl, like that, more jazzier stuff. And Brucey's, yes. He was like my first inspiration to play drums from Pearl Jam. Oh, he doesn't play for them anymore.